Before he died, my husband prepared to leave all his assets to his wife. Moonlight, Ching mo you're used to living frugally, and you won't spend much money in the future. But Yahweh is different. She has to have the best of everything for her clothes and food throughout her life. If there's no money, she won't be able to live elegantly for her entire life. If it weren't for you causing trouble behind my back then, the one marrying me would have been her. This is not only my debt to her, but also yours. If you feel even a hint of guilt, you should join me in protecting her dreamy girlhood. Before he took his last breath, he unwillingly said, if there's a next life, I hope the one who spends it with Yahweh is me. I will cherish her for a lifetime, from beginning to end. He didn't say a word to me except to make me give up the inheritance. I was thinking, if it hadn't been for saving him back then, I wouldn't have missed the exam. And if I hadn't missed the exam, I would have surely become a great painter. When I opened my eyes again, I returned to the day he drove his luxury car to the school gate to confess to John Yahweh. I sat in the examination room, gripping my pen tightly, effortlessly writing the answers on the paper. Xin Jingxian is going to have an accident later, but that has nothing to do with me anymore. After the exam, I walked out of the school gate and, as expected, did not see Xin Jingshuan's luxurious confession scene. My parents walked up to me holding a bouquet of flowers, showing their concern. Sweetheart, how did you do on the exam this morning? Were you nervous? In my past life, not taking the college entrance examination was the pain of my existence. So, after the exam, I searched for that year's questions and perfect answers. Having been reborn, I relied on my photographic memory, effortlessly recalling the questions from the test paper. So, I felt very confident. In order to maintain the surprise, I said lightly, I think I did well on the exam, but the results aren't out yet. So, I don't know how it turned out. After saying that, I casually asked, Mom and Dad, where's Jing Xian? Isn't he supposed to come and deliver flowers to his girlfriend? Why hasn't he shown up? My parents hesitated for a moment, then sighed. I originally didn't want to tell you, fearing it would affect your exam. This morning, Jing Xian had a car accident and is currently in the hospital undergoing emergency treatment. Oh, it's a pity I have an exam. Otherwise, I would go to the hospital to see him. After hearing this, my reaction was very subdued. I urged my parents to take me home first. In my past life, Xin Jingxian drove the family sports car to surprise Zhang Yahui and planned to confess to her at the school gate. But an accident occurred. That day, after hearing the news, I immediately found Xin Jingxian and took him to the hospital, thus missing that afternoon's exam. Yet, despite that, Xin Jingxian remained ungrateful. He had been worried about Jiang Yao in his entire life, and before he died, he left all his inheritance to her. This time, I didn't arrive at the hospital where Shen Jingxian was until after I finished my exams in the afternoon. Following my parents' tight schedule, by the time we got there, the surgery had just ended, and a group of doctors and nurses walked out of the ward. The life has been saved, but the patient is paralyzed from the waist down. It's best to buy a wheelchair for him to make future travel easier. As soon as the words fell, Aunt Shin collapsed to the ground, crying with a heart-wrenching sob. Uncle Shin had a haggard expression, forcing himself to help add Shin up. Dad also watched Shin grow up, but lamented, You say this child will be taking the college entrance exam in a year. How could something happen at this time? My mom quietly pulled him from behind. When Shen Jingshin was pushed out, he was half conscious. Only I stared blankly at this familiar scene, and it finally dawned on me that I had truly been reborn. In my past life, Shin Jingshen, in his pursuit of Jiang Yaowei, had flamboyantly driven a luxury car, planning to confess to her in front of everyone as she exited the examination hall. Unfortunately, on the way here, I crashed into a large truck due to speeding. before his consciousness faded. He called me. After I received the news, I ran out of the examination room, ignoring my exam, to rush him to the hospital for treatment. Leaving during the exam without a valid reason means my exam eligibility is void. For this reason, I want to repeat a year. But then Shen Jing suddenly confessed to me, Qing Mo, if it weren't for you, I would have died in that car accident. Just being alive, I'm already content. But you missed the exam because of me, and I feel so guilty about it. I quietly waited for him to continue. Little did I expect him to change his tone. All this time, you've had a crush on me, haven't you? I want to marry you. In the past, I was blind to the fact that the one who loved me the most was right by my side. I widened my eyes and instinctively asked, Don't you like Jiang Yue? Shen Jingxian's expression was faint, making it hard to discern his true thoughts. It's impossible for me and her anymore. Up until now, Jiang Yue still hadn't shown up, which was enough to indicate that she didn't actually care for Shen Jingxian that much. At that time, I was young and thought little. Just because of a few flattering words from Shen Jingxian, I gave up my dream of becoming an artist. Since childhood, for decades, I constantly guided him, taking him to see different mountains and rivers, teaching him various massage techniques, and he only needed to open his mouth, and I would dutifully cater to him. He said there was no artistic atmosphere at home. I immediately contacted the best designer in the country to reshape the house into the style he liked according to his ideas. He doesn't like pets, so I gave away the dog I had raised for many years. He said he only likes the meals I cook. So, I study a few new dishes every week to cheer him up. Under my careful care, one day, he suddenly regained sensation in his legs. I was even happier than he was, supporting his body as we exercised together. He finally stood up. Then, he began to contemplate how to achieve his dreams, and I fully supported him. In front of everyone in the family, he said that the person he was most grateful to in this life was me. But, as his career grew larger and larger, he suddenly remembered the regrets he had from his youth. Before the company's annual meeting, the assistant reported to him, Mr. Shen, the Ms. Jiang you invited is now a national-level dancer, and her fees might be quite high. Shen Jingxian, however, said, Go ahead and invite her, no matter the cost. The assistant hesitated for a moment, still concerned. Mr. Shen, should we let the lady know about this? Shen Jingxian leisurely played golf, casually responding, Is it necessary to inform her? When Jiang Yue arrives, she will naturally see it. That day, I accompanied a lady to discuss matters on the court and happened to overhear these words. Only then did I realize that Wang Jingxian expressed his gratitude towards me. He still couldn't forget this former lover in his heart. However, not long after, Shen Jingxian suddenly suffered from a continuous high fever for a month and was declared critically ill by the hospital. Before he died, he did not forget Jiang Yue and surprisingly transferred all the shares of his company to Jiang Yue's name. Even the property that he and I jointly owned was secretly given to Jiang Yan under the pretext of buying a house for his parents. When I found out and confronted him, he groggily replied, Qingmo, just satisfy one last wish of mine. Yan is different from you. You can cook and do housework. You can do everything. But she has loved dance her whole life. She can't do anything besides dance. And without money, she won't be able to survive. And if it weren't for that accident back then, I would never have married you. You've already occupied my entire life. What more could you ask for? If there is a next life, even if I become disabled, I still wouldn't want to let her hand go. These words struck my heart like a heavy hammer. After he died, I smashed his photo, his wheelchair, and everything that made me feel humiliated. This time, Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen were still crying their hearts out, but I remained unmoved. Isn't that girl already promised to be Jingshuan's girlfriend? How come she hasn't shown up even once? I heard that after the girl heard about Jingxian, she bought a plane ticket to travel, afraid of taking on responsibility. My dad was sighing beside me. It seems that Jingshuan's taste isn't all that great. I mean, how can he still have the mood to travel after such a huge incident? As the catalyst for Shin Jingshuan's car accident, Jiang Yaoi's actions were indeed quite excessive. The elder Shins were filled with fury, pouring all their grief over their son's disability onto Jiang Yaoi. We'll go find her. If it weren't for her, my son wouldn't be like this. If she could just come see Jing Xian once, we wouldn't blame her. They planned to get in touch with Jiang Yaoi immediately to clarify the matter. But Shen Jing Xian seemed to have heard the commotion and said anxiously, "It's not Jiang Yaoi's fault. I'm not blaming her. I don't blame her." When I entered the ward, I was not surprised to see Shin Jing Xian completely wrapped in bandages. He could still speak, but his breath was very weak because he had not received timely treatment. He was trapped in the car for over an hour longer than in his previous life. So, his situation was much worse than in his previous life. The doctor said that it would be very difficult for him to ever stand up again in this lifetime. Aunt Shin cried inconsolably, "Son, you take good care of your injury. With your dad and me around, you won't suffer any grievances." Shen Jingxian was oblivious to his condition and said casually, "It's okay, Mom. What grievances could I have? Once my leg heals, I'll bring your daughter-in-law home." Having said that, he wanted to sit up, but found he couldn't muster any strength in his lower body. He tried to move a few more times, finally sensing that something was off. My legs. Why can't I feel them? Is it because I just had surgery? Aunt Shin felt a pang in her nose and turned her head away. Shin Jingxian grew anxious. "Dad, what exactly is going on?" "Dad!" Shin also hung his head in sorrow, just as a nurse happened to pass by in the corridor. Shin Jingxian loudly called out to her, "Can you tell me what's wrong with my leg?" The nurse was forcibly drawn into this bizarre atmosphere and hadn't even spoken yet when Shin Jingxian suddenly went into a frenzy. "Am I disabled?" He struggled to move his legs, trying again and again. I watched him, not feeling the slightest bit of sympathy. Instead, I stepped forward and added the final blow. "Jingxian, take good care of yourself. The doctor said your legs are paralyzed." Shin Jingxian looked incredulously at his own legs. In that moment, he looked just like a puppet with its strings cut. Aunt Shin saw her son like this and couldn't help but rush over to hug him tightly. Uncle Shin gritted his teeth and said, "Jingxian, don't mention that woman anymore. The fact that she hasn't come to see you until now is enough to show that you're completely unimportant to her. If it weren't for her, how could you have ended up in that car accident? How could she go on vacation so comfortably?" As soon as the words were out, Shin Jingxian hurriedly clarified, "It's not Yan's fault. She knows nothing. I went secretly to surprise her." I chuckled silently. How could it not be Jiang Yaoi? If it weren't for her binge-watching dramas and demanding Shin Jingxian to give her the so-called dignity, we wouldn't have this situation before us. Yet here I am, an outsider, having devoted half my life only to be framed and trapped in a car accident that has confined him for life. He also said that even if he were disabled, he would not let go of Jiang Yaoi's hand. Such love is truly touching. Reborn. How could I possibly not help him fulfill his wishes? I continued my dream while he continued to be disabled, and everyone was happy. I didn't stay by Shin Jingxian's side day and night as I did in my past life because I was worried. But the next day, Dad told me that Aunt Shin had fainted, and Uncle Shin was overwhelmed, unable to take care of Aunt Shin and watch over Shen Jingxian at the same time. Moreover, I heard that Shen Jingxian was now on the brink of collapse, refusing to listen to anyone. Uncle Shen meant to ask me to take care of Shen Jingxian for 2 days. After all, we are peers, so I can guide him a bit. But the person Shin Jingxian wanted to see wasn't me. When he saw me coming, a hint of disappointment clearly flashed across his face. After I sat down, I opened the game Candy Crush. I came to see Shin Jingxian out of respect for Uncle Shin. If he doesn't appreciate it, then I can just go through the motions. Seeing that I wasn't saying a word, he suddenly smashed the medicine bottle on the table, just like a child throwing a tantrum. When the nurse rushed over, she found herself in a difficult position. If you don't get the 4, your wound will get infected, the nurse said as she cleaned up the debris on the floor and brought over a new bottle of medicine. As she prepared to give the injection, Shin Jingxian began to lose it again. Get away! He had great strength in his upper body, and the little nurse stumbled from his push, almost dropping the medicine tray to the floor. I put down my phone and slapped him across the face. Shin Jingxian, I know you're angry, but why take it out on a nurse? I knew what he was angry about, because he could no longer get in touch with Jiang Yaohui. It was the same in the last life. After Shin Jingxian encountered trouble, Jiang Yaohui went into hiding. Later, after inquiring from various sources, I finally found her and brought her to the hospital. Once Shin Jingxian saw her, he obediently cooperated with the treatment. But this time, without my intervention, Jiang Yaohui was probably somewhere living it up. Poor nurse, who was already annoyed at work, had to keep her cool while attending to this ancestor. After I slapped Shin Jingxian and stunned him, he didn't calm down. On the contrary, he became even more relentless. Get lost, all of you. What's there to treat for a useless person like me? I rolled my eyes and said impatiently, I don't want to be treated anymore. I'll call Uncle Shin to handle your discharge procedures. Why are you taking your anger out on the nurse? Shin Jingxian fell silent. The nurse quickly managed to give him the injection and hurriedly left. As she left, she couldn't be bothered to look at Shin Jingxian even once. Shin Jingxian was glaring at me with all his might. Su Qingma, what right do you have to hit me? Even you can't stand this worthless person, right? Watching him in a fit of hysteria, the corner of my mouth curled into a faint smirk. This is all your own doing. Your mother fainted because of you, and your father not only has to take care of her, but also deal with the company's affairs. But here you are making a fuss. Yet I tell you, Jiang Yue is somewhere having a good time. She won't come to see you just because of your feelings. Seeing that I had caught a glimpse of his inner turmoil, Shin Jingxian angrily said, Yue must have gone back to her hometown after finishing the exam. That's why you can't get in touch with her. Don't say silly things. I picked up my phone, and just 2 minutes ago, Jiang Yue updated her status on social media. I held the photo in front of his eyes and scoffed. Is her hometown in the Maldives? Shin Jingxian looked at the photo with an expressionless face, but his fingertips were turning white from clenching the blanket underneath. When I went downstairs for breakfast and came back up, he had already obediently hung up the anti-inflammatory 4. In my last life, I was afraid he would get hurt, so I always went along with what he said, claiming that Jiang Yin must have been busy and therefore couldn't answer the call. During that time, I took good care of Shin Jingxian. I bought him meals every morning and evening, helped him with bathing, and coaxed him to take his medicine. Now the facts are laid out before us. Isn't he too busy to be pretentious now? As for Jiang Yaohui, she's going back to her country tomorrow. After contemplating for a while, I decided to reach out to her. On the second afternoon, under my persuasion, Jiang Yaohui finally arrived at the hospital. Shin Jingxian was not aware of this beforehand, so he had been acting lifeless all along before Jiang Yaohui's arrival. Upon seeing Jiang Yaohui, his excited voice trembled. Yaohui, you're here. I knew you would come to see me. Please sit down and take a rest. Everyone knows that when visiting a patient, one should at least bring some fruit. But Jiang Yewei came empty-handed and even wore a reluctant expression before entering the ward. Yet, Shun Jingxian was moved to the point of being almost overwhelmed. Su Qing, Mo, hurry up and turn on the air conditioning. I ignored him. I stepped outside the ward, leaving them a chance to be alone. In my past life, I gave up my studies and took care of Xin Jingxian day and night. He not only failed to see my efforts, but also mocked me for stumbling into a marriage because of his car accident. Indeed, when it comes to the person he loves, Xin Jingxian has never held back his genuine emotions. However, Jiang Yewei may not appreciate it. She stood at a distance and coldly spoke. Xin Jingxian, I have something to tell you. I'll leave right after. Xin Jingxian was stunned. Yewei, go ahead. I'm listening. Jiang Yihui got straight to the point. Xin Jingxian, regarding your car accident, many people are speculating that it has something to do with me. You must be the one spreading these rumors. How shameless are you to throw dirt on my name just to see me? The day of your accident, it was you who wanted to steal the car from home to show off on campus. How come in the end it's all my fault? I'm telling you, this matter has nothing to do with me. It's all your one-sided wishful thinking, and I won't take any responsibility. Xin Jingxian's joy turned into stunned disbelief. Freezing on his face, he hurried to explain. Yihui, you misunderstood me. I have never said that this matter has anything to do with you. You don't have to do anything for me. Just seeing you makes me very happy. Jiang Yihui said sarcastically. Xin Jingxian, why are you so hypocritical? What are you pretending for in front of me? Now the whole school is calling me heartless. Are you satisfied? I told you a long time ago that I have someone I like. Why do you still keep bothering me? Now that something's gone wrong, I'm the one who has to take the blame. I'm so fed up with you. Just looking at you makes me feel sick. After Jiang Yihui finished speaking, she shot Xin Jingxian a fierce glare and left the hospital room. Xin Jingxian watched the direction she left, dragging his body in an attempt to catch up and explain. As a result, with a thud, he fell off the bed. He dragged his weary legs, calling out Jiang Yan's name, but the person in front never stopped to glance back at him. When I came in, I saw a fleeting glimmer of deathly silence in Xin Jingxian's eyes. I reminded him, I'm leaving in the afternoon. Remember to have Uncle Xin find you a caregiver. And Aunt Xin still hasn't woken up. Make sure you don't cause any trouble for him right now. I didn't know if he heard it, but looking at the blood streaming from the back of his hand where the 4-needle had come out of kindness, I called a nurse for him. But that night, I heard that the wound on his leg had relapsed and required another stitching surgery. I no longer cared about Xin Jingxian's matters. I was only waiting for the scores to come out so I could attend my ideal school. With nothing to do, I made plans with my girlfriends to go shopping and then signed up for a few fun activities to lift my spirits. But just before I left, Aunt Xin suddenly called me. She started pleading with me to go and check on Xin Jingxian. Qingma, you need to come and persuade Jingxian. He hasn't eaten for a week, and I'm afraid he might be seriously suicidal right now. I am in a dilemma. Auntie, I don't know what to do either. Jiang Yewei has gotten a new boyfriend. And Jingxian, who must have become upset after finding out about this. Upset, hearing my words. My parents were frantic and pulled me to go to the hospital. Qingma, your Uncle Xin and Aunt Xin have never been in good health. You should try your best to persuade Jingxian. If something happens to him, old Xin and the others definitely won't survive either. Mom and Dad don't know the grudge we had in our last life, so they just think of it as a friendship between us. We can't just stand by and watch the Shun family run into trouble like this. When we arrived, Aunt Xin and Uncle Xin came up to us as if they had seen a savior. After not seeing them for a week, both had quite a bit more gray hair, looking extremely old. As for Xin Jingxian, he was huddled in his hospital bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. The whole person exuded a subtle sense of lifelessness. If he really didn't want to live anymore, he could easily jump off the hospital roof and end it all. Yet, he insists on going on a hunger strike, keeping everyone at a distance just to torment others. It's pitiful that Aunt Shin and Uncle Shen, at their age, still have to worry about him, seeing that he had no desire to talk. I didn't say anything, but just took a picture of him in this state and sent it to Jiang Yue. No matter what, Jiang Yue is his only spiritual remedy. Her presence is worth more than all of us combined. The reason for helping him is entirely out of fear that Aunt Shin and the others would be too deeply affected by the loss of their son, and I couldn't bear it. Moreover, compared to death, I would prefer for Shin Jingxian to living hopelessly like this. Then he would have to accept the fact that he is and recognize that in Jiang Yue's eyes, he is just an optional spare. Mom and Dad urged earnestly, Jingxian, think about your parents. What will they do if they lose you? Shin Jingxian remained motionless, like a pool of stagnant water. Uncle Shin and Aunt Shin were anxiously at a loss. I had no choice but to send Jiang Yue another message. If you don't come over, I will hold you completely responsible for Shen Jingshuan's death, and everyone will know it was you who caused his demise. After sending the message, I symbolically urged her a few more times. You are only in your 20s. You shouldn't ruin your future because of a temporary predicament. Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen won't care if you're paralyzed. You can fully recover from your illness. Go home with them and continue your studies. Shin Jingshuan's eyes finally focused a bit, but I'm already disabled. I can never stand up again. Even Yue looks down on me. There's no chance for me and her anymore. I held my patience and said, Can you put aside your infatuated thoughts for a moment and take a look at your parents? See how many gray hairs they've gotten because of you. If you were to choose to end your life because of Jiang Yue, that would be incredibly selfish. Shen Jingxian let out a bitter laugh and shot me a cold glance. You speak so nicely because you have all your limbs and are about to enter college. Everything is moving in a good direction, and I can never drive again in this lifetime. I can only spend the second half of my life sitting in a wheelchair. After saying that, he turned his head, looking utterly defeated. He even tried to take off the breathing mask from his face. At the critical moment, Jiang Yue arrived. Shin Jingxian, stop it. Shin Jingxian immediately halted his actions. Jiang Yue stepped into the hospital room and interrupted. Shin Jingxian, you need to stop hurting yourself. Am I not good enough for you? As long as you eat well and live well, I promise to be your girlfriend. The dead silence in Shen Jingshuan's eyes vanished in an instant. Then, he still said in disbelief, Yue, don't you already have a boyfriend? Jiang Yue quickly came up with an excuse and said, That was just a lie to you. I've never had a boyfriend. I just didn't want you to forget about me. After all, we come from different backgrounds. It's me who is not worthy of you. Now I understand. I can't live without you. Jiang Yue's words ignited a spark of hope in Shin Jingshuan's life. He began to eat well and cooperate with the doctor's treatment. A smile also returned to his face. Aunt Shin and Uncle Shin breathed a sigh of relief. Mom and Dad were also happy for them. That's great. It turns out we wronged this girl. With her around, Jingxian will surely recover soon. Wronged. Everyone was immersed in the joy of Shin Jingxian's rebirth. But I didn't think so. I saw Jiang Yue turn away, her eyes flashing with disgust, as well as her dirty posts cursing on her social media. I knew then that Shin Jingxian's time basking in the woven beautiful dreams wouldn't last long. I no longer concerned myself with Shin Jingxian's matters. It's just that Mom and Dad still occasionally visit him at the hospital, and from time to time, they tell me about Shin Jingxian's current situation. They said that ever since Jiang Yue came, Shin Jingxian has noticeably been much happier. Every day, he is actively undergoing treatment and has started to seriously plan his future with Jiang Yue. This kid Jing Xian is now completely devoted to this girl. But I always feel that this isn't good. What if that girl regrets it later? The one who gets hurt will still be Jing Xian. I was immersed in the joy of embarking on my journey, not caring at all whether Shen Jing Xian would be hurt or not. Mom, this is Jing Xian's own choice. What happens in the future has nothing to do with us. My mom was very surprised. Qingma, haven't you always had a good relationship with Jing Xian? But I've noticed that you've seemed quite distant from him lately. I couldn't possibly tell her that I was reborn, so I casually made up a reason and said, Mom, it's not that I'm distancing myself from him, but Shen Jing Xian once told me that he doesn't want me to get too close to him. And also, I don't want to meddle in other people's karma. Shen Jing Xian has harmed me to this extent. This black pot is one he deserves to carry. Seeing my indifferent expression, my mother silently changed the subject. Early the next day, Aunt Shin and Uncle Shin made an unexpected visit. I finished breakfast and was about to rush to the airport. They saw the luggage at the door and exclaimed in surprise, Qing Emo, where are you going? Mom quickly answered for me. The child has finished the college entrance exam and is getting ready to go out and relax. Aunt Shen's nose tinged with sadness, and her expression looked a bit unnatural. Just before leaving, she suddenly said to me, Qing Emo Jingxian is blind to your merits and can't see your goodness. Remember to keep in touch with Auntie after you start university. You can apply for the major you like, and Auntie is happy for you, too. I smiled, not letting my dislike for Shen Jingxian extend to the two elders. In my past life, although Shen Jingxian was quite a scoundrel, Auntie Shin and Uncle Shin treated me like their own daughter. At that time, with me around, they were somewhat more relaxed. But in this lifetime, according to Shen Jingxian and Jiang Yue's temperaments, the Shen family is bound to face trouble sooner or later. Watching them, my feelings are complicated, and I can only ease the tension by saying, Jing Xian and Jiang Yue are doing well like this now. Uncle and Aunt, you must take it easy in the future and take good care of your own health. I don't know if Shen Jing Xian will ever be able to stand again, but these two poor old people are destined to suffer. Aunt Shin's brows were furrowed with fatigue. Jin Xian's temperament has changed dramatically. He needs Jiang Yue by his side for everything. And that child is also someone who enjoys socializing. As soon as she stepped out, Jing Xian became unhappy, neglecting both his meals and his medicine, just torturing himself like this. We watched it all, tried every means to persuade him, but nothing worked. We could only watch him every day, fearing he might make a rash decision in a moment of despair. Qing Emo, do you really think love is that important? I thought carefully about Aunt Shen's words, and they seemed to hold weight. Shen Jingxian unhesitatingly left all his inheritance to Jiang Yue, regardless of his reputation. How could I not be doing this for him, willingly giving up my own dreams? But blindly pursuing love will inevitably lead to hurt. I comfortably played for a whole week. As an art enthusiast, continuously broadening my horizons to gain inspiration is the most important thing. In this process, surprisingly, I did not think of Shen Jingxian even once. Half a month later, when I returned home, my father told me, Shen Jingxian is getting married. Before I came back, he and Jiang Yan had already held their engagement ceremony, and at that time, they were there. He sighed repeatedly as he said this. I was confused. Getting married soon. Isn't that a good thing? Mom said angrily, that's a transaction. That Jiang Yue opened her mouth and asked her Aunt Shin for 5 million as a bride price. Her parents were even more outrageous, demanding that your Aunt Shin buy a house and a car for Jiang Yue's brother before agreeing to let their daughter marry Jingxian. At first, Aunt Shin disagreed, and they even mocked Jingxian for being a saying that Jiang Yue marrying him was already a loss. This kind of family is a den of tigers and wolves. But it cannot withstand the fact that Jingxian is unable to part with Jiang Yue. Aunt Shen, being a loving mother, must have kept these matters hidden from Shin Jingxian. I had long anticipated this would happen. Therefore, I am not surprised at all. 3 days later, the college entrance examination results were released. My score was only 20 points away from full marks. The anxious hearts of my parents were instantly replaced by surprise. They hurriedly informed friends and relatives on social media to attend my graduation banquet. I originally intended to keep a low profile, but my mom said that after years of hard work, I finally made it. Of course, we should celebrate well. In the end, I didn't say much. It's just that facing such overwhelming joy feels a bit surreal after all. After Shin Jingxian stood up in his last life, he became quite indifferent to me. He focused all his attention on Jiang Yahua, and at that time, there happened to be a painting competition. The winners would have the chance to study in the best painting class in the country. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but when I brought up this idea, Shin Jingxuan's face flashed with a hint of impatience. He disapproved of my suggestion and scoffed. Just look at you now, all wrinkled, and you want to go out competing with those freshly graduated college students for a job. Besides, you're going out as Mrs. Shin now. If you end up making a mess of things, won't that be embarrassing for me? I suppressed the anger within me and said coldly, I took care of you my whole life, which is why I delayed my own dreams. Now that your leg is better, you start to look down on me. Shin Jingxian, how did I not realize back then that you are such an ungrateful little person? The more I spoke, the more excited I became. If it weren't for you, I would surely have walked the path of a painter, someone who had already lost their cane, the one who is least willing to mention their dark past. There was an undeniable bitterness hidden in his eyes. Don't say it's because of me. This is all your own willing choice. If you truly had that ability, how could you give up a bright future just to serve me? Isn't it because you know you can't pass? So you use me as an excuse to evade responsibility. That time I suddenly realized that all my efforts had merely been a joke in Shin Jingxian's eyes. Perhaps a grand celebration would be better. This way, it could quickly reach Shen Jingxian's ears. The next day, I accompanied my parents to visit Aunt Shen and them. Shin Jingxian and Jiang Yar were also present. He remained indifferent to everyone, but a hint of a smile appeared on his face only when he spoke to Jiang Yar. My parents have been worried that my college entrance exam scores might upset Shin Jingxian, so they have refrained from mentioning it until their elders gathered to chat. I came to where Shin Jingxian and the others were and asked, Shin Jingxian, in a few days is my graduation banquet. Are you going? Shin Jingxian was taken aback and Jiang Yahua asked for him. How many points did you score? You're actually having a graduation banquet. Shin Jingxian's expression slightly tightened as if he too was waiting for an answer. I glanced at him, smiled and said, only 20 points short of a perfect score. That 20 points I missed was intentionally answered incorrectly. Shin Jingxian wore a smile, but his eyes were filled with despair. After Jiang Yahua congratulated him, she couldn't wait to show off. I also got into my dream university, and after the summer vacation, I'll be going to register. As soon as she finished speaking, the smile Shin Jingxian was forcing instantly fell apart. Everyone is supposed to set off for the next destination of their dreams, but he, paralyzed from the waist down, is trapped at home. Moreover, Jiang Yahua and he are bound together by interests. Can they really make it to the end? On the day of the graduation banquet, I wore the custom dress my mother had specifically made for me and hurried to the venue early in the morning. Shin Jingxian also came, but I didn't have time to attend to him. After he arrived, he found a corner to sit by himself. When the last few childhood friends called out to take pictures together, Only Shin Jingxian sat there in a daze, never coming over. Someone shouted at him, Jingxian, what's wrong with you? Hurry up and come over for the group photo. Got into college and is leaving soon. You should come over and talk to her more. A hint of embarrassment appeared on Shin Jingshuan's face. The platform was very high, and he couldn't get up there while sitting in a wheelchair. Moreover, he has become quite reclusive now, feeling somewhat out of place among everyone. Two childhood friends from the past directly lifted him onto the stage. However, once he got up there, everyone was busy looking for their own spots, and Shin Jingxian was squeezed to the very edge. When the photo came out, everyone was laughing happily. Only he, coldly staring at the camera, wore a blank expression as if lost in thought. Later, there was a time when Shin Jingxian actually came to my door. I was very surprised, lowering my head to look at him with a complex expression. He struggled to tug at his lips. Qing Mo, you probably didn't expect me to come. Did you? Can I talk to you? I frowned as my parents happened to return from outside. I immediately welcomed him in with enthusiasm. Qing Mo, you should have a good talk with Jingxian. He hasn't come over for a while. When you were young, the two of you loved to play together. I paused and pushed Shin Jingxian into the backyard. I guessed that there were some things he probably didn't want to say in front of our parents. Along the way, Shin Jingxian looked east and west, seeming to be very nostalgic. Qing Mo, I haven't congratulated you since you got into university. I replied with a faint "oh." Then I heard him say, I'm surprised you scored so high. Unfortunately, I won't have such an opportunity again. Let's add each other back on WeChat once you get there. We can stay in touch. When he sent over the WeChat QR code, I declined. No need. My parents and your parents are close, so I'll naturally see you when I come back for the holidays. I felt a bit hot under the sun, so I spoke up. The sun is too strong. Let's go back and talk. Shin Jingshuan's gaze dimmed a little. I didn't intend to seek his opinion either. He said nothing. I walked ahead by myself. After walking quite a distance, I heard a bang coming from behind. Turning back, I found that Shin Jingxian had accidentally fallen into the bushes while making a turn. He met my gaze. He turned his head, stubbornly and resiliently said, It's fine. I just fell accidentally. I can get up by myself. Yeah. I turned my head and directly went home first. On the day school started, my parents took me to the high-speed railway station. Here, I happened to run into Jiangyue, and Shin Jingxian was also there. He was quite worried, explaining to Jiangyue, once you arrive, remember to tell me if anything happens. Feel free to call me. Jiangyue casually dismissed a few words before getting into the car with her luggage. Shin Jingxian looked desolately at her departing figure, as if he could burst into tears at any moment. The university campus is quite different from before. Once stepping in here, the atmosphere feels very relaxed. It's not like junior high or high school, where there was pressure to study every day. Moreover, I chose my favorite major and a group of like-minded individuals. I have been very happy every day. I often feel regret. What was I thinking in my past life to give up such a wonderful life for a man? I dyed my hair a platinum color that I had never tried before and bought many different styles of clothes. I started learning how to put on makeup, do my nails, and take beautiful photos. I went to a trendy restaurant to check in with my roommate. Each of these is more interesting than everything I experienced in my past life. When I returned home for summer vacation, my parents both said that I had changed and become more my own person. Aunt Shen, having heard that I was back, rushed to my door. Qingma, can you get in touch with Jiangyue? Why hasn't she come back yet during the holiday? I looked at Aunt Shen with a hint of sympathy. It's been a week since the holiday, and Jiangyue still hasn't come back. What does that mean? It definitely means she doesn't want to come back. Aunt Shen, I'm not very familiar with Jiang Yue, so I don't have her contact information. It's also possible that she went back to her hometown. Aunt Shin nodded. A glimmer of despair and powerlessness flashed in her eyes. I actually know that Jiang Yue is only with Jing Xian because she is after our family's money. Jiang Yue doesn't come back for a day. And Jing Xian sits by the windowsill waiting every day. Sometimes he sits there the whole day. I frowned. After Aunt Shin left, I opened Jiang Yue's social media app, but I saw her recently updated photo. In it, she was posing with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed foreign man. Their embrace very intimate. My mom instantly erupted with anger. I told you that Jiang Yue is unreliable. I had to talk to Aunt Shin and advise her not to associate with this girl any longer. I urged my mother to stay calm. It's better not to interfere in other people's affairs. What if Aunt Shin really falls out with Jiang Yue? Then Shin Jingxian knew that if something happened, no one would be able to escape blame at that time. Just before school started, Jiang Yue finally returned. She was getting more and more refined in her appearance, with fiery red lips and stepping in high heels. She perfectly embodied the image of a wealthy and beautiful woman. Aunt Shin said that as soon as she returned, Shin Jingxian seemed to have come back to life. The house was finally no longer lifeless. But in the days leading up to the start of school, Shin Jingxian began to refuse food again. Uncle Shen and Aunt Shin were also troubled by this, to the point where they couldn't eat. The next morning, Aunt Shin and Uncle Shen came to the door and immediately asked my parents to borrow 500,000. The two families had had a friendship for many years. My parents naturally handed over the money without a second thought. But they had some concerns about the Shen family situation. Old Shen, what happened at home? The Shen family wasn't in a bad situation. Uncle Shen used to run a company. They lived in a detached villa, so by all accounts, they shouldn't be the kind of people who needed to borrow 500,000. Aunt Shin's eyes immediately welled up with tears as she cried. After Jiang Yue came back, she said she wanted to join some dance troupe and needed to buy all kinds of dance costumes. She asked us for 2 million and even threatened that if we didn't give it to her, she'd cut off all contact with Jingxian. Jingxian's condition is becoming increasingly unpredictable. The doctor said he is suffering from depression. After Aunt Shin and the others left, my parents couldn't help but complain. Look at Jingxian. How can he be so unreasonable? Even if he's paralyzed, after all this time, he should have moved on. To put it bluntly, he's just too pampered. He can't handle even the slightest setback. Yet, he just happened to develop a love-struck mind. Falling for a girl like that, Old Shin and the others were about to be suffocated by their whole family. Love is important, but aren't parents important in his heart? I raised an eyebrow. What about Uncle Shin's company? Mom and Dad looked dissatisfied. If it weren't for Jing Xian getting into a car accident and killing someone, and then constantly threatening to go on a hunger strike, Old Shin wouldn't be stretched so thin and end up being targeted by peers who stole his big client. The biggest reason the Shin family is going bankrupt is all because of Jing Xian. It's a pity he doesn't understand the hard work Old Shin and the others have put in. I sighed, feeling it was unfair for Aunt Shin and the others. Jiang Yue recently updated her latest status on social media. It openly displayed many photos with men, all of whom seemed quite close. Not long after, I saw a photo of Jiang Yue with a man on social media. The two were head-to-head, their lips even touching. Jiang Yan posted below, officially announcing her boyfriend. Looking at the photo of that man, I suddenly felt he looked very familiar. It was only after racking my brain that I remembered. That man was Jiang Yan's dance teacher from high school. My usual updates are only visible to friends, so Jiang Yan naturally wouldn't discover me. Soon, a male friend sent me some screenshots. The content was basically a conversation between Jiang Yue and that male teacher. Yahweh, isn't 2 million too little? We could spend that on a trip abroad. Take a little more now. You can't be with that forever. Jian Yue replied, I originally thought the Shin family was wealthy and influential, but it turned out to be just an empty shell. After the company went bankrupt, they lost quite a bit of money, and now they have to rely on borrowing to get funds. And that useless Shin Jingxian, all he does is moan without reason. His leg is injured, but his brain is fine, yet he can't think of ways to make a bit more money. Just seeing his miserable state annoys me. After being back for a few days, he practically clings to me all the time. When my phone rings, he always insists on digging deeper and making me clarify everything. It's truly suffocating. I still prefer being with you. After all, you're much more interesting than he is. In order to travel beautifully with you, I'll find a way to score some money from his family before school starts. Perhaps that male teacher deliberately shared the chat records as a way to show off. It just so happened that my friend, who was eating melon, saw it and passed it on to me. I guessed that Jian Yan was with Shin Jingxian, but it was only to use him to get money from Aunt Shin and the others. But I didn't expect that Jian Yan actually hated Shin Jingxian so much. I can't imagine what would happen if Aunt Shin cut off her money. Shin Jingxian would wait until death, and Jiang Yan wouldn't even look at him again, let alone marry him. Shin Jingxian brought this upon herself. But Aunt Shin and the others are so innocent. Jian Yue's appetite is growing larger, and in the future, they might have to force themselves to sell their house and car to support her high spending. If this continues, the Shin family will gradually head downhill. I blocked Jian Yue at the entrance of the Shin family home. She was holding the latest model of a handbag as she got out of the Shin family's luxury car. Upon seeing me, she gave me a somewhat haughty glance. Did you need something from me? I took out the chat history and got straight to the point. You can hold on to Shin Jingxian, but you can't keep using that to blackmail Aunt Shin and the others. I'm here today to tell you that I've been keeping an eye on you. If anything happens to the Shin family, I will make sure they see the truth and then charge you with fraud. Jian Yue realized I was there to settle the score with her, and her expression instantly darkened. Su Qingma, why do you keep coming back to ruin my plans again and again? I initially had no intention of getting involved with Shin Jingxian. It was you who threatened me to go to the hospital to see Shin Jingxian. Now I've agreed to be with him. He's and I only received a little bit of compensation for emotional distress. What right do you have to come and dictate my choices again? This is not a reason for you to play both sides and deceive Aunt Shin and the others. I had no intention of entangling with her and coldly interrupted her words. Aunt Shin and my family have been family friends for generations. Their affairs are my affairs. I won't stand by and watch you destroy the Shen family. As for Shin Jingxian, whatever he does and causes is his business. You just need to provide emotional value. Aunt Shin has already given you quite a bit of money, and this amount far exceeds the market price for caretakers. Don't take things too far, or I'll show you what it means to play with fire. I shook my phone and warned, take care of yourself. After saying that, I turned and headed home. Perhaps my warning to Jian Yue had some effect. Before the start of the semester, there hadn't been any more uproar coming from the Shen family. However, Jiang Yan quickly hid her updates on social media. It seems that Jiang Yan has grown cautious, afraid that I would gather more evidence that might be detrimental to her in the future. I sighed to myself. I have no idea how long this method will last. Before school started, my parents suddenly arranged for both families to have a dinner together. After dinner, Shin Jingxian went outside to sit alone. I ran into him just as I was going out. His complexion looked quite sickly. I had intended to turn back, but he spoke first. Qing Mo, you look very different when I saw you. I suddenly realized that we seemed to belong to different worlds now. I listened quietly, glancing at my phone from time to time. The atmosphere was somewhat awkward. I felt a bit irritated. I'm going back first. Qing Mo, don't go. As soon as I took a step, I heard Shin Jingxian's pleading voice. Can you stay with me a little longer? I haven't talked to anyone in a long time. I frowned slightly. Where is Jiang Yaowei? Shin Jingxian lowered his head, feeling dejected. Jiang Yaowei is with another man, her dance teacher from high school. You should remember him, too. I was taken aback. It turns out Shen Jingxian already knew. I coldly asked, So, is there something you want to say to me? Shin Jingxian looked remorseful. After a long while, he suddenly asked excitedly, Qing Mo, I've decided to break off my engagement with Jiang Yaowei. Can you come back to me? I finally know what kind of person she is now. Back then, I was so foolish to give up the one who loved me the most for her. After saying that, he lifted his head, looking at me with hope. Qing Mo, can you give me one more chance? I held back my disgust and asked in return, Is this what you want to say? Shin Jingxian nodded, his eyes filled with a newfound hope for the future. Qing Yimo, my legs have a chance of standing up, as long as you can take good care of me. Within 10 years, I won't need to sit in this damned wheelchair anymore. By then, I will pull the Shin family out of the whirlpool. I must ensure that you become Mrs. Shan in style. Then we can have a child together, allowing him to inherit my fortune. Shin Jingshuan's words greatly increased my doubts. His decision to break off the engagement with Jiang Yaowei was, after all, understandable. He was so confident that his leg would be completely healed within 10 years. Why did he suddenly feel like he had been given a shot of adrenaline and started planning for the future? The only possibility is that he had been reborn as well. Shin Jingshuan's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Qing Mo, you've liked me since we were kids. We are childhood sweethearts, and no one is more suitable for marriage than us. I immediately interrupted him, saying coldly, Shin Jingxian, stop dreaming. Why should I give up my own dreams to fulfill yours? Someone like you is better suited to live in a quagmire. Don't forget your last words from your past life. Since you've started over, why don't you cherish it properly? Shin Jingshuan's smile froze on his face. Qing Mo, you've come back, too. I curled my lips into a smile and said, Didn't expect this. Did you? I came back earlier than you, right before your car accident. Shin Jingshuan's face immediately turned pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Now I've gotten into the best university in the country, and my future looks bright. You see how you're neither human nor ghost right now, not even as good as a dog. After saying that, I quickly retracted the cold smile at the corners of my lips as if nothing had happened and returned to the house on my own. Qing Mo, don't go. I was wrong. Behind me, Shin Jingxian seemed to have chased after me, but soon fell silent. That night, Shen Jingxian was dragged back to the hospital for emergency treatment. After he woke up, he refused to cooperate with the treatment, and Shin and the others cried once again. On the day school was about to start, my parents and I got up early in the morning preparing to go to the high-speed train station. Just as I was about to head out, the alarms suddenly rang out in the neighborhood. My mom curiously looked outside. What's going on? Why are so many ambulances coming here? My dad also leaned in to take a look. At this sight, it turned out that the ambulance was heading straight to Shen Jingshuan's home. Goodness, something happened at the Shen's place. I immediately stopped what I was doing. Could it be that what I said that day provoked Shin Jingxian and he couldn't take it anymore? My parents and I hurriedly put down what we were doing and rushed to Shin Jingshuan's house. When we arrived, the Shen household was a scene of devastation. Shin Jingxian sat in his wheelchair, his hands smeared with blood. Jiang Yaowei was sitting on the floor, utterly broken. A bloodied man was lying nearby. Uncle Shin and Aunt Shin shouted to guide the medical staff. Several people were sent to the ambulance in batches. Before leaving, Shin Jingxian glanced back at me. I turned my head away in disgust. I only found out later that Jiang Yue had asked a male teacher to help her pack her luggage before the start of school. By chance, it was seen by Shin Jingxian. In a fit of rage, I went wild and stabbed him from behind with a knife. When we arrived, Jiang Yan was sitting on the ground, terrified. She only had a cut on her face, but the male teacher had lost too much blood, and despite efforts to save him, it was in vain. Jiang Yuan cried loudly at the police station. Shin Jingxian is insane. The teacher and I were just ordinary friends, and without saying a word, he started attacking. It's really none of my business. Aunt Shin lost her patience early in the morning, pointing her finger at her nose and scolding. Shut up. If it weren't for you having an unclear relationship with that man, Jingxian wouldn't have lost control and killed someone. If anything happens to my son, I will definitely take you to court. She took out the photo I sent her to show the police. Officer, this woman has taken a lot of money from our family, is engaged to my son, and even brought her male lover home. My son was just provoked while they were having a heated argument here. The doctor at the hospital brought some bad news. Shin Jingxian committed suicide by slicing his wrist. Before going to the hospital, he hid a small knife in his clothing pocket. He is currently being rescued at the hospital, but has lost too much blood, and it's feared he won't last much longer. Upon hearing this, Aunt Shin rolled her eyes and fainted. The last time I saw Shin Jingxian, he had his eyes tightly shut, no trace of blood or life in him. He had lost all hope for life, so this time, he left no last words and ended his life. After Shin Jingshuan's death, the family hurriedly arranged a funeral for him. A year later, I met Aunt Shin and them again. I originally planned to just greet them briefly and leave. Unexpectedly, they took the initiative to mention Shin Jingxian. After Jingshuan's death, we've come to terms with it. We raised him to this age. Yet he doesn't understand our painstaking efforts at all for the sake of so-called love. He doesn't even care about his own life. And then there's Jiang Yue. Your Uncle Shen and I found a lawyer and sued her for fraud. The entire Jiang family has now been sanctioned by the law. Qing Mu, I also want to thank you for giving us those pieces of evidence back then. I heard that you have recently opened your own art gallery. Uncle and Aunt will definitely come support you another day. From their tone, it seems they have found peace, seeing them able to move on. I breathed a sigh of relief. Shen Jingxian was inherently a selfish person, whether it was family or lovers. In his eyes, they were all mere crutches that he could discard at will. He died, and only the living could open a new chapter in life.